Well, this morning's announcement by Pope Benedict surprised, even shocked the world. But some see his resignation as the right move. The Vatican has been marred by scandal and controversy during the 8 years of Benedict's papacy. It's also a time when fewer and fewer Canadian Catholics are attending Mass. So at an unpopular time to be Pope, how have both Benedict and the Church fared? The CBC's Terence McKenna looks at the life of the man formerly known as Joseph Ratzinger.
When Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger became Pope Benedict XVI, he had already established his reputation as a severe doctrinaire Catholic conservative. He came to worldwide prominence as prefect of the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, in charge of enforcing church orthodoxy and discipline. Also called the Holy Office, the department was famous for conducting the Inquisition in the years when heretics were burned at the stake. Among his targets were church liberals, such as the leading American theologian Charles CURRAN.
Ratzinger tends to see the world as sinful, bad, and evil, and therefore the Church has to oppose that. And it's that idea, then, you see, that tends to identify all goodness with the Church, all evil with the world, and you have to stand up against the powers of the world.
It's the Inquisition in a new way. They do not burn you physically, they burn you psychologically. And there are only a few people who are able to resist.
As Cardinal, Ratzinger was also in charge of investigating priests on charges of pedophilia. He was accused of widespread cover-ups and even slapped ABC reporter Brian Ross when asked about it.
So there's a question whether you...
Come to me when the moment is given, not yet.
Ratzinger famously stated that the sex abuse scandal was mostly a media invention that was being used by the enemies of the Church. As Pope, Benedict was forced to soften his stance. He met with victims of church sex abuse and expressed public contrition.
We are deeply ashamed, and we will do all possible that this cannot happen in future.
In his early years as Pope, Benedict stumbled repeatedly on some of the most controversial issues facing the Church. He followed his predecessor's footsteps with a visit to the Rome synagogue, but also outraged Jews with his reinstatement of a bishop widely known for his Holocaust denial.
I think it's been very damaging to the Vatican, and in a sense to the Pope personally. I think it's been damaging to the Vatican because of all the criticism that's come up, and people are asking whether he's competent.
He tried to reach out to Muslims in an attempt for interfaith dialogue, but then publicly recalled the familiar accusation that the Prophet Muhammad sometimes advocated violence.
Dass vorgeschrieben hat, den Glauben, den predigte, durch das Schwert zu verbreiten.
Anti-Catholic Muslim protests erupted around the world. Many were killed and injured. On a papal visit to Africa, he outraged many by suggesting that the use of condoms was actually making the AIDS epidemic worse. But he later reversed himself by saying that condoms could be a first step if they were used for the prevention of infection. Pope Benedict was much more sure-footed on the familiar range of social issues which have plagued the Church for years. He did not budge 1 inch from long-held teachings regarding the role of women in the Church, marriage and divorce, and especially abortion.
The inalienable dignity and rights of each man, woman and child in our world, including the most defenseless of all human beings, the unborn child and the mother's womb.
Polls show that 70% of Catholics in North America do not practice or believe in the Church's teaching on sexual issues. Last September brought the death of the Pope's chief liberal adversary in the Church, Cardinal Carlo Martini of Milan. In an astonishing newspaper interview just before he died, Martini issued a stunning indictment of the state of the Church under Pope Benedict's leadership. He said, "Our culture has aged, our churches are big and empty, our rituals and our cassocks are pompous. The Church must admit its mistakes and begin a radical change, starting from the Pope and the bishops. The pedophilia scandals oblige us to take a journey of transformation." As Pope Benedict's health declined, it was clear that he would be in no shape to bring about that journey of transformation. Many Catholics seem to believe their Pope was beaten down by the pedophilia scandal.
He wasn't ever as popular as the other popes, and there were a lot of question marks over the way he dealt with sex scandals in particular. So maybe it'll be a chance for the church to regenerate. I think resigning might ultimately be a good thing.
At the outset of his papacy, Benedict was hailed as a brilliant academic who could provide a strong intellectual grounding for modern Catholic thought. But many of the faithful often found his lofty speeches hard to understand. The man called the caretaker pope is leaving the church leadership much as he found it, looking for new solutions to the problems that have bedeviled it for decades, new ways to appeal to an audience that has been drifting away. For The National, I'm Terence McKenna.